Jim, let's go. Good evening. I'd like to call the City of North Augusta Council Study Session for Monday, November 13th, 2023 to order. This time I'll turn over to our City Administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford. You okay, Pat?
Do what now?
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why, was I
I
supposed
don't
to be
know,
doing
nobody
something?
was laughing at, looking at you.
Oh, no, I was asking where the other members are here tonight.
They're coming, yeah.
Okay,
One of
Pat
them.
Carpenter, is that what we're doing our
I'm
roll
just-
call?
I just-
Oh,
No, you're good.
all right, I'll
There.
see y'all
It's
next
over to Jim
week.
Clifford now. We'll see you next week. You don't have to do anything.
It happens to all of us. That's fine. I have my moments as well. So for the review this evening, we've got 3 items. One is a review of the agenda for next week. Second will be department details, and third will be a focus item that I'm going to lead that is discussing kind of the remainder of the ARPA funds and some late-breaking information on one of the projects. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move into the council agenda. You have a number of old business items, so items 6 through 10 are going to be the second reading of the right-sizing, if you will, the ordinances to include a number of departments that are in the budget and have been in the budget for some time, but were not actually reflected in the Code of Ordinances. And so that's the changing of Parks and Recreation, also adding Department of Human Resource, Department of Information Technology, separating out from Parks and Recreation the Department of Tourism, and then lastly, establishing the Office of the Assistant City Administrator. Yes, sir.
Number 11, too.
Thank you. And then also number 11, not to forget James, Department of Public Services. So these are all bundled together that are, again, more of a housekeeping item. And then I'm going to, as part of the study session, or correction, as part of the focus items, we'll likely have a discussion about the addition of some new items under this agenda, but I'd like to get the council guidance before we move forward on adding those to the agenda. So I'm going to pause for any questions because that really covers the current set of items on the agenda for next week.
We're good.
Hearing none, we'll move on to department details, and I'll kick it off right here with Linda, who can do it right from the chair.
Good evening. Just my regular 2 updates. Our Cycle 1 customers will experience disconnect days this Wednesday and Thursday. That's November 15th and 16th. And then our Cycle 2 customers will have a due date Friday, November 17th.
Thank you, Linda.
Next up, James Sutton with Public Services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. One of the projects I want to discuss tonight is Phase 2 of the declined tree replacement. If you recall, Phase 1 involved replacing some of the trees along West Avenue. Property maintenance staff will be moving into Wano Woodlands this week, replacing approximately 24 declined trees in various areas of that subdivision. We anticipate the work should hopefully be completed by week's end or maybe push into next week sometime. Moving on to a different project, highlight project of the night is Clay Street Pump Station. Just want to kind of give an overview before we get into the bids and the numbers we received, refresh everybody on what the project's purpose and involvement is. The age of that station was put in, some parts in the 70s and early 80s. It's a booster pump station that provides the medium level water distribution system. It pumps water to the tanks by the middle school, Paul Knox, Smithfield, and also as far out as it reached to 5 Knox Road tank, and provides water directly to customers from the upper end of West Martintown Road to Muskogee Lake Road near the north side of the system. Moving along, that station never stops. It doesn't sleep. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's if you review the pipes that go up to it as the arteries, that is the heart to our system. Without that system fully functioning, it's going to have a problem getting water distributed to our customers for fire protection and consumption. Moving along, we have completed a lot of the plans, have been submitted to DHEC, got the permit. We are letting AECOM handle some of the administrative and engineering on this project. Back June of 22, they submitted to the city a probable cost for the replacement and the construction related to this project. During that time, we reviewed it. It had some off-site pipe that was included in the project, and we went in and value engineered it down $400,000. We presented the documentation requesting resolution for construction and funding to move forward from council, to which y'all did approved back in '22, let apart for $3.6 million. This past Thursday, right here, we opened up the contractor bids, and the bids come in at 4.67. It's a substantial increase to what we expected it to be. Talked with the engineering firm about the bid, and the pump station itself, just the shell, the box, the house, and the pumps had increased over the past year 100%. It's very tough to swallow an increase like that. We know the utility funds that we get, we value them, and we put them to work, and we squeeze every dollar out of them. We don't like coming back asking for more. We regret that it's turned out this way, but it's beyond our control, and this is a much-needed project for our water distribution system. I know that Mr. Clifford has got some data he's wanting to cover, and we're going to evaluate the bids, move forward with it, and we'll hope that you'll take consideration for this project.
Thank you, James. Let's save our questions for Jim. Thank you, James. Appreciate it, sir.
Next up, Tommy Paradise for Planning and Development.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and Council, we'll have the Planning Commission this Wednesday afternoon, or Wednesday evening.
Next, Chief Thomas, Public Safety.
Good evening. Two items to cover tonight. The response to resistance simulator, which is owned by the Municipal Center, will be at Station 2 until November the 22nd. So if you get a chance, and some of us have seen that in action, some of the council members, and you're welcome to come see what we're training on. It gives an officer's view of split seconds, how he or she responds to an event. So it's a very great tool for us to have. Also, the 6th session of the Citizens Academy will be tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. We'll be graduating 10 folks from the Citizens Academy. Mr. Mayor, you have an invitation to come and speak if you will, and anybody else who wants to come. So we're very proud of that program and the benefits that we get from that. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, Rick Meyer from PRT.
Good evening. The 42nd annual Rotary Bowl football competition was rained out on Saturday, and it is in progress as we speak at Lions Field. Will run through Thursday this week is the way we rescheduled it. We did get the cheerleading exhibition in on Saturday, so Pat is done there. We also, this coming Saturday at North Augusta High School Stadium, is the 2nd annual Gridiron Classic. And this is a competition between the North Augusta winners from our 9-10-year-old league and our 11 and 12-year-old league versus Columbia County's winners from the league, something we started last year in Columbia County. So those games will be played at 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock on Saturday. Also, I want to add, if you saw my weekly update, the bridge to the villages at Riverview is in place. Big thank you to Streets and Drains for their help in getting the concrete forms, bases in place, and riprap rock. It looks really good. Youth basketball registration is underway through November 20th. And a reminder that the Christmas tree lighting event is Tuesday, November 28th, 5 to 6:30. Save that date. And we will be swapping out Hometown Hero banners later this week for Christmas banners.
Awesome.
Rick, that bridge I have in my many trips to Riverview, that bridge really looks great at Riverview. Have y'all seen it? Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Good deal. Thank you.
You know, that's one of those things where we kind of knew the way things were, but we had literally the neighborhood came to a public power hour. And again, it's another example for citizens, the thousands I know are watching us right now, that coming to council in the public power hour, allows us to understand the issues and then be able to, address with administration staff. And more times than not, we're able to solve things. And really, Tom's group, your group, Rick, y'all did all the heavy lifting and made it happen. We're getting all the pats on the back, but the reality is, as always, our teammates and directors and staff at North Augusta are incredible and just do an incredible job for our citizens, and everybody's very happy. So thank all of y'all.
Next up, Tom Zizer with Engineering and Public Works.
Well, the end is near for the Bluff Avenue streetscape. It doesn't look like it today, but
Come on, you sure?
it will. The scene down there will change rapidly over the next 2 weeks. Starting tomorrow, contractor will be performing milling operations and basically reprofiling the road. And then paving operations will start later this week, weather permitting, of course. And they anticipate having all the pavement done before Thanksgiving Day next week. So at that point, the road should be open, free, and clear for the traveling public.
John, can I interrupt you? If you don't mind, will you maybe just talk a little bit so people aren't, just tell a little bit about the road and kind of why it is the way it's going to look and the traffic calming issues and what we're trying to do, and want to tell a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the road is, although it's a neighborhood street, but yet it functions as somewhat of a collector, as we call them. It's a major route of traffic to the Hammonds Ferry riverfront area, so it has a fairly high volume of traffic for a residential street. And so in the design process, it was an intentional design element to make that road, to construct it to the appropriate width with the new curb and gutter. And that is a width to allow, normal traffic movement each direction. Limited on-street parking is possible. But again, that keeping the road from being constructed excessively wide, we believe helps to control speed of traveling vehicles. We felt that was important to the residents who live on that road, as well as the hopefully users of the downtown Greenway connector, the bicyclists and the pedestrians that will be having to cross those various intersections throughout that corridor.
Exactly. I just want people to realize when they see it, it's not just a thoroughfare to get from Hammonds Ferry up there. It's slow and it's not extremely wide, but that's not what it's designed for. It's designed for our pedestrians and folks there. So, Tom, thank you for that.
And the new alignment that most haven't really experienced yet down at the Bluff Avenue Alta Vista intersection, by aligning that road to a more of a traditional T intersection, we eliminated the sort of sweeping right turn, the rolling stop intersection that existed there before. So we believe that'll be beneficial to the pedestrians and other users of the Greenway. Public Works crews are performing routine detention pond maintenance in various neighborhoods. I apologize. I expected to have a list of specific neighborhoods, but I did not receive that prior to this meeting. But that work is ongoing citywide. And then I mentioned 2 weeks ago about the River Falls utility work on West Martintown Road near I-20. That they did not actually begin today, but they have assured me that they will be starting this week with the traffic control and lane shifts required to do that utility work. Again, to reiterate, that work is being done by a contractor for the River Falls apartment project, not the city. They do anticipate that work will be completed by December 1st.
Thank you, Tom.
Last but not least, Kayla from HR.
Excuse me.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You'll see our employment opportunities on the back of your department details. And then we also kicked off appraisal season last week. So we have that we're going through now. So that's all I got.
Are any questions? We'll move right into the presentation.
Well, are we having a Christmas employee luncheon or,
We have a luncheon scheduled. What was the date, Kayla? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
December 15th?
And
We'll
where
get it-
will it be held this year?
It's going to be upstairs.
Oh, okay,
We'll get an invitation out to council.
okay.
All right, we'll just go right into the presentation. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to highlight for the council some of the actions that you have already taken over the last 2 years in regard to ARPA or SLURF, depending on which acronym you want to use, from the American Rescue Plan Act. And there's also, not on this background slide, a council action that involved refunding some of the money to the general fund and ARPA based off of the RIA grant. But I just wanted to show you and the general public, from a spend plan perspective, I believe that the city council has moved and done a really good balance of infrastructure, public safety, and quality of life options for the citizens as you go through here. So you've got a number of those projects. Some of those projects are ongoing, some of them are completed, and some of them are yet to start. But this is essentially going through the resolutions 1 through 8 as far as the SLURF requests. This is what you as the council have approved via those 8 individual requests. So I just want to refresh your memory on how you have previously okayed these various aspects. And I'll move on to the next slide. So I wanted to also highlight for the council that we have outside funding for a number of projects, some of which have already been approved and some of which are pending to be approved by council, or at least considered by council. And so I'll walk the dog on what that is. So we have 2 separate RIA grants. The first is a $500,000 RIA grant, which is kind of the normal scope of things. The RIA, the Rural Infrastructure Authority, on an annual basis provides grants to a number of the systems. So prior to the large expenditure of ARPA money into the Rural Infrastructure Authority, the city had competed for and was given a $500,000 grant, and that is associated with the Clay Street pump station. So if we did not do that project, we would lose the $500,000 associated with that project. Likewise, when the state of South Carolina put a large amount of money into infrastructure, they did through the RIA, and there was a competitive grant process through that, and the RIA provided the city of North Augusta just over $7.6 million, and that's for the wastewater interceptor project. So that's the design and engineering and eventual slip lining of a lot of clay pipes that make up the interceptors, which are the largest of the waste pipes here in the city. Kind of like the interstate highway, if you will, of those pipes. We also have outside funding from South Carolina Watercraft Fund, which Representative Hickson and Senator Young have been instrumental in helping to achieve for us. And so we have a total amount of $350,000. It should say fund, not fund, but that's okay. It is fun to be on the water. And then we also have outside grants for amphitheater, seating, and bathrooms. So we have a South Carolina PRT grant, the amount of $150,000 for the seating, and that's a 50% match, meaning that we have to spend at least 50%. So we have a $150K obligation to do that seating, and likewise, there's a $265K requirement match for the bathroom facilities. And then what we have currently within our unobligated ARPA funds is a little over $2.5 million that the city council has not yet obligated against projects. Any questions on this slide? Next slide, please. Okay, so as James alluded to, late breaking news that I got on Friday, and we further refined this morning, is that we had received 3 bids, which is a good news story, if you will, because we had competitive bid pricing across a number of reputable firms. Unfortunately, the lowest bid came in at just a little over $4.6 million, which was significantly higher than the original cost estimates were based, that we got through AECom. We have a number of projects that can be phased. We have the ability to do certain projects in a way that we can apply funding and then wait for later year funding to decide to do things. So for example, if you so choose, the amphitheater project is one you could say, hey, we just want to do the boat dock and the overlook now, but don't want to do the rest of the project and wait for an out year to potentially do that. That's certainly possible, not advisable, but possible. Likewise with the wastewater interceptor pipes, we're doing the design and engineering up front. If we run out of money on that project, what's going to happen is we're going to slip line a certain percentage of those pipes, but then we'll just stop, and then when we get additional funding at some other future point, we'll go back and do the rest of those projects. But this project in particular is not that way. This is kind of an all-or-nothing proposition based on the equipment that's associated with this project. So it's either you're going to do the project or you're not going to do the project, but it is not one that I can phase for you at this point in time. It's also a long lead project. So the equipment that we have been quoted to us is going to take almost up to a year to procure. There's a lot of competition out there in the market, and this is a pretty niche kind of thing. And so ultimately, it's going to take for us for a while to get moving on this. And then the other thing we're doing right now is that we're looking at other funding options to meet up the cost differential between what the city council has already allocated for the Clay Street pump station versus this new and exciting cost factor that's there on the screen. But what I would tell you is I'm going to go and look for other funding opportunities throughout the week through our own budget lines and other aspects. But part of what I wanted to talk to the council tonight about was the ability or the possibility of absorbing this cost differential via ARPA alone. And that's certainly a strong possibility. Not a guarantee, but it certainly has that ability. And I'll talk that a little more in depth here. Next slide. So what I would like to be able to do for the council is next week at the city council meeting, provide you with SLUR for ARPA request number 9. And that would be up to, but not to exceed, an additional $1.58 million for the Clay Street pump station. And then also to get after the first phase of the amphitheater project, which is the boat dock and the overlook, not to exceed $600,000. For the Clay Street pump station, again, if I can find other funding mechanisms, and we're going to sit down, Linda and I, along with some of our council, and figure out, there are some funds we might be able to tap into to help mitigate some of those overall costs into the ARPA. It doesn't change the overall cost, but would change how much we'd pull out of ARPA to do it, which we may need to do. The other thing that's on the horizon is we've got ARPA request number 10, which would be the second phase of the amphitheater project, and I would anticipate that is going to be somewhere in the $415,000 to $450,000 range. We also have, per council direction, capital improvement plan that's out on the street right now for requests for proposals. That closes on the 1st of December, so we'll know at that point in time what we're dealing with. And then also, Rick has shoveled in about, $50,000 this year into the care and feeding of the chillers at the activity center, and those things are, on the verge of failure, and so we want to do that activity as well. Next slide. So by doing this, by having the council potentially give the staff guidance on putting additional money into the Clay Street pump station, these are the things that we would not do, or potentially not do. One is we have about $1 million Greenway stormwater project that, a culvert system that Tom Caesar's been working on, or at least been evaluating, and we would have to take a pause on that request. We're not on the verge of failure there, but as you well know, we've had other failures along the Greenway through stormwater culverts, and if we had a catastrophic event, it would close that portion of the Greenway until we could get that adjudicated. We had also looked at adding or replacing some of the city cameras that are currently out there on the street now. What we're doing is mitigating that with, some of those cameras are being funded through the Department of Energy settlement money for the MRF complex specifically, but we would not do the rest of the city at this point in time, or at least not through ARPA. And then lastly is we have some of the downtown aspects to include the Georgia Avenue traffic calming, and I may have some other fund sites available to tie into that, but that would not be funded through ARPA if we go through this route. Next slide. So what I'm going to request is the city council to give me guidance to not to exceed $2.18 million, which is the aggregate cost of the increase in the Clay Street pump station, and then the cost of moving forward on the boat dock and the overlook. The timing of this is important, and the timing of this is related to the fact that if we want to do the boat dock and the water before Memorial Day, we need to get that contract up and running. That's one of the reasons why I delinked that project. It's still the same general contractor, so R.D. Brown still has the contract. So if you're familiar with how we went after the public safety headquarters, I came to council and said, this is our contractor, and here's one guaranteed maximum price for the overall project. What I would do in this particular case is say, okay, we have one contractor and it's R.D. Brown, and I would give you a guaranteed maximum price for one phase of the project, which is this, which is the boat dock itself and the overlook, and then I'd bring you a second guaranteed maximum price for the second phase of that, which is the restroom facilities and the seating, of which is currently under design and engineering right now with Cranston. But I want to get the boat dock moving, because if I don't let that contract, there's risk we're not going to have that boat dock in place in the summertime, was when we really need it. And then I'm going to work as hard as I can to find some additional funding throughout this week. But I think we have to make a decision on moving forward on the Clay Street pump station sooner rather than later. And so if I can mitigate those funds with other fund sites, we'll work on doing that. But I wanted you to be prepared so you didn't get sticker shock next week when I say, hey, I need another $1.5-ish million for the Clay Street pump station, because that's what it's going to take to close the gap on that funding. And not ideal. And again, there you have other projects that we can just choose to phase and just accept some risk in some ways. But I think, as James highlighted, the water system of our city is one that I don't believe should be accepting of risk. That's something that our citizens count on. And so that's a basic government service that has to be accomplished. And so my recommendation would be that the city council provide guidance to the staff and to me to go ahead and craft a series of resolutions to be able to move forward with that. And if we go into the worst case scenario, that leaves about $340,000 of unobligated ARPA, which we're going to have to figure out how we move forward on the rest of the projects. And we may mitigate that by splitting some of the costs. So, for example, the chiller project, we may partially fund with ARPA and partially fund with Capital Projects Fund. That's an example of one we may use in that kind of way. And if that would be the will of the council, what I would also do is, and again, every little bit helps, we have some funds from ARPA that are left over that were not spent on previous projects. So one of those, in a very small way, was the trailer removal from the country club property. That's about $4,000. We would also bundle that and come back to council next week and ask them to re-encumber those funds or unencumber them from that project and move them into a new project, which would be either the Clay Street pump station or the amphitheater boat dock project. And then we also have about $27,000 remaining in CPSD 3 once we close out the fire station. So again, our intention all along has been to close out the legacy capital project sales tax funds. So we would use those funds also to those projects. So that would be a separate council action as well. So you would see a slurp request. And you would also see some other actions that would involve unencumbering some projects and re-encumbering them for the requested project, along with zeroing out CPSD 3 to move forward. So, next slide. That might be the last slide. There you go. All right. So I know it's a lot to take in, and that's why we're doing this here in a study session, so we can have some discussion. I've got all the experts here between James and Linda to be able to talk through, what some of the options are. And I'm not trying to put you under the gun, but this is late breaking news that we got on a Friday, and then further refined Monday morning here this morning. So here's where we're at.
Are we comfortable that the 2.1 million, the 600, and then the 1.58, whatever, that's good with those numbers?
I'm comfortable with that number, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
What was the original estimate on the Clay Street from, was that ACOM?
If you go, Councilman Buck, if you go back into your background slide, under item number 2, the council had allocated $3.1-ish million for the Clay Street pump station. And that was based off the original estimates that we'd received.
It came in at 4, what? It came in at 4.67, so would it increase 1.5? Yeah. Okay.
But James, did you say Clay Street project, if it's not completed, it might affect the service to our citizens. Yeah. Right, right. Well, I think we all know water is the biggest in the city of North Augusta. I mean, that's,
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
a
one of the,
biggie.
yeah, I think it's one of those projects. I mean, obviously none of us like the price, but it's kind of the circumstance that we're put in. And then with the ARPA funding, primarily most of the focus was for infrastructure, so it makes sense to continue down that path with those type of funds.
but our ARPA fund, if all this is done, will be down to about 340,000.
That's just after the next ARPA request, Councilwoman, and I would tell you honestly that if we have to use every bit of ARPA for the Clay Street station,
Oh, yeah.
that's not
yeah.
enough to cover the next ARPA request that I
Right,
got coming.
right, right.
So we'll have to come up with a different funding strategy with the next series of projects.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, everything is expensive. And we saw that with the, you know, and the other issue with this is you got everyone getting all these ARPA dollars. You have the municipalities everywhere. I mean, it's a supply and demand for issue, man.
Yeah, I would tell you, Mr. Mayor, I reached out to a number of firms that I have relationships with through MASC, you know, through the various conferences, and you know, most of the ones that I had direct contact with opted not to bid on this project because they had much larger, you know, municipalities or county bids that they were working on. And so I was grateful that we got the number of bids that we did, and, you know, through reputable firms. But I would tell you that the labor market / you know, contracting market for this type of work is definitely tightening up.
But we're also talking about, said that it'd be a year or so to get parts. So all this funding wouldn't be spent tomorrow, correct? I mean, some of
That's
it would be
correct.
spent down the road.
Yes.
So that could potentially give us more time to find extra funding.
What it would do for us, Councilman, I think, is a couple things. One, it would give us some additional time for extra funding, and then every day that we have money in the bank is generating interest, so that gives us a little extra oomph there. But much like the fire trucks, you know, what we're seeing, that, you know, some of these things are just incredibly long lead items to get there. I think our very first fire truck, which you approved almost 2 years ago now, we're not going to see until probably Christmas of next year. It's amazing how long some of these processes are taking.
Well, as James said, just like with us carpenters, tire and auto, the older the car, the harder to get the part. You know, so, you know, they just become obsolete.
I know, I mean, we need to move forward with it, so I don't know.
Gonna say that, you know, this wastewater, there's really no choice.
Pat, there's your consensus to move forward. Let's vote on it Monday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then, Mr. Mayor, are you going to cover any personnel items?
I
Okay,
am.
then I'll turn it back to you.
Couple things, just a couple, you want to update about your race?
Sure. Okay, so the Palmetto Peach Half Marathon, 10K and 5K is going to be on November 25th. You can expect some road closures. Those will get posted on the SRP Park website, Fleet Feet website, and we'll get them turned over to the public safety website as well. So there will be some road closures, but you can anticipate 1,500 to 1,600 runners out on our streets running through downtown. And the race does help support the Friends of the Greenway organization too, so that's part of our project with it as well.
Third Thursday's coming up, of course, this Thursday. Christmas tree lighting, Rick mentioned, is last Tuesday of this month. Things will have the Boy Scouts will be roasting marshmallows at 5. We'll have the coffee truck serving coffee. North Augusta Elementary Choir will be there at 5:15. NAMS and PKMS bands play at Look Away for 30 minutes. Then Santa comes a little after 6, and our own Miss Pat Carpenter, her granddaughter Anna Grace, is going to flip the Annie. Hey, I got Annie, yeah. Annie Grace will flip the switch. So, and then afterwards, all the downtown merchants will have cocoa and we'll have the trolley running. So we want to hang out all through downtown. So it's going to be a neat event. So please pass the word, family, small town America, come see us. Then I wanted to announce on December the 2nd is another neat event that the North Augusta merchants are doing downtown. It's Tinseltown. There'll be all kinds of things. Again, Santa Claus. There'll be cold beverages, hot beverages. There'll be, I think, hayride. There's going to be Christmas trees to buy. Just a real neat called Tinseltown. That'll be at the Jackson Square parking lot. So that'll do that. Then the Christmas parade will be on Sunday, December 3rd. So we'll be participating with that. So anyway, a lot of good stuff happening over the next month. All right, so I'm going to talk more about this. Actually, I'll say this again on Monday. But I did want to let folks know, since we got media there and people watching, we will be having so basically, as you know, Chief John Thomas will be retiring at the end of the year. And we began an extensive search. And, just so people will hear it from me, as mayor, and we've done this everything from Mr. Paradise down to finance, is when we have an opening in a director position, we will always go outside to give not just internal candidates, but external candidates an opportunity. And I feel like the cream will always rise to the top. And so we did that, and we got a slew of candidates. And we narrowed those down, and we invited 4 folks in for an interview. And three were internal, 1 was external. And I'm really happy to announce that the new chief, starting the first of the year when Chief Thomas retires, will be Captain Junior Johnson. What I would tell citizens and what I would tell council is the internal candidates, we all brag about public safety, but I'm telling you, going through this process and being able to really listen and understand the projects and the things that we ask these folks to talk about and share, guys, we have got great leadership here in North Augusta. Our citizens need to be really, really excited across the board. We've got great leadership. And Captain Johnson is just going to continue that, and all the senior command as well. So just really excited and want to let everybody know that. So if you know Captain Johnson, please let him know. And I will be bringing this again at the Monday meeting. I'll have Captain Johnson here so we can get him on. Everybody can see him on the live stream. But anyway, that's all I got for the good of the order. Anything? Y'all good? You good? Anything on your end? Okay. Thank y'all. Oh, Thanksgiving. No, we got one more. We got one more. Anyway, I'm not going to thank you for Thanksgiving yet. Y'all have a great evening. Thanks for all you do. We stand adjourned.